TikTok has been one of the most anti-man social media platforms in the world, and it is obvious that it has been designed and their staff has been trained to promote the anti-men content, including violence against men, bullying men and boys, bashing men, and all other types of anti-men content that you can think of. However, the content that challenges women's dominance in Western societies and holds women responsible for their words and actions in any way suggests that women are not perfect and the dominant human beings on this planet, and really species on this planet, is almost always removed and demoted. Mind you, TikTok is perfectly fine with anti-Semitism, racism, underage girls dancing in front of old men, and as a matter of fact, TikTok would be happy to sell virtual roses to these men so they can send it to those underage young girls, which essentially makes TikTok a trafficking organization. Now, this is not just my opinion. This has been the story that almost every single influencer who speaks on behalf of men and boys told me about, or told all of you about on social media. But let me give you a few examples from my very young channel that's only been about 3 months old, and you can already clearly see that what I'm talking about is easily proven. Look at some of my comments that have been removed when I was talking about how men should stay away from women with tattoos, nose rings, and generally speaking, calling out modern women. And as a matter of fact, they weren't just removed immediately after I posted it. After I peeled them, and I'm assuming a human being took a look at them, they were still removed, citing that it goes against their terms of use, and a lot of times this is considered to be hate speech. Here's another comment that was removed when I called out a modern woman for ghosting. Here's another one where the comment was removed when I called out men actually for being weak and simpy. Now, as you can see, I'm not using any bad words, even though if I did, that should still be fine. I'm not using any slurs, but as long as I'm calling out women on their bullshit, that is not allowed on TikTok. Now, let's see what is allowed, as long as it goes against a man like myself. So here's me being called a pedophile. Here should be on a sex offenders list because I live in Thailand. Incel, the ladyboy comment, of course, which is the classics, child prostitute user, and the child abuser. Now, as you can see, I've decided to just start appealing these to TikTok for removal, just to see if, you know, they are just and equal both ways. And guess what? Pretty much almost every single one of them were denied. The reports were denied, essentially saying that TikTok believes that all of this, as long as it goes against the men, is perfectly fine. And here, as you can see, one of my comments actually got me the very first warning, which is the first step for TikTok to start removing the channel if you, I think, get 2 or 3 of them. And as you can see, my comments are nowhere near close to what the comments going the other way towards me, and yet they're not allowed. However, all of those other comments coming the other way are perfectly fine. And of course, the trafficking thing. And listen, it is obvious that the entire Western culture now is based on making men the second-class citizens and making sure that they have no voice to really fight back. But why is TikTok involved in this? Now, the first theory is that the Chinese-owned apps are actually instructed by the Chinese government to do this, because if you think about it, a great way to bring down any society is to take men out of the equation, essentially render them powerless, and that's exactly what's been happening, and that's how you bring it down to its knees and quite quickly. So if you think about it, that's kind of smart. And the second theory, to which I subscribe a little bit more, is quite simple. These social media platforms, including TikTok, are run by woke women and simps. And their way of thinking about the world is essentially reflected in the way these platforms are ran. I mean, think about, like, for example, CNN and Fox News, right? Totally opposite news channels. Now, they are technically news channels, but if you look at their web pages on any day, you would think that they're reporting about two completely different countries and societies. So what can we do about it, and can we? Now, first way to fight TikTok and many other social media platforms is essentially the classics. Go and pressure their sponsors. Now, men are not very good at organizing, definitely not as good as women, but we recently have a very good example of Budweiser when they hired a trans person to be a spokesperson. All of a sudden, men have almost destroyed the entire Budweiser brand in a matter of days. Now, I wish men would unite around men's rights as fast and as hard as they do around their beer, but it is possible. But the real problem here is majority of Western men don't even know that they don't have as many rights as women in Western society, whether it's culturally or even legally, because they've all been raised in this woke feminist society, raised by either feminist women or other simp men. So the step number one really would be to wake up these men, you guys, first. That's why this whole movement is called the Red Pill. Once that's accomplished, even at 20 or 30% rate, and we're nowhere near that, I believe, then we can start talking about what we can really do about silencing our voices. But as you can tell, it is catch-22. Let's see how long this video is actually going to stay on TikTok and some other social media platforms, though some are becoming more friendly, like Facebook and obviously X. But overall, I can tell, and besides the screenshots I've already given you, that my content is being pushed down by the algorithm, because I have ran other successful channels in the past, and I can tell you something's very fishy going on with my content for sure. And as I said this before, I'm not alone. So that should be the plan. And if you're a man in a Western society, you should definitely be very concerned, and you should start become as active as you can. Or you can do what I did, which is get the fuck out of there and come to a country that still respects men and men's rights, where the culture is still pretty traditional. And look, it's just freaking beautiful. I live in Thailand, and this is one of our exotic islands here, with white sand beaches and blue skies and blue ocean. But I feel like this, and the reason I wanted to do this video on this wonderful beach here in Koh Samet is because this is a visual representation of how I feel as a man here compared to 30 years of living in America. And if you want to consider coming here to this amazing lifestyle away from modern women, where you have some respect, a lot of respect in this culture, I will help you. Go to themillionmenproject.com. That's where I have outlined every single step of the way that you need to take to get here. A lot of guys try, and they do it in such a wrong way, where even when they get here, they still live a very much quite sad lifestyle, and they end up dating the same women, have the same problems in their relationships. But check it out, and just by scrolling through the table of contents, you can see that this is quite a task. But if you take the journey, I guarantee you that's probably going to be one of the best things that you have ever done for yourself.